Hi, I'm Brian Collins, author of Step Off the Porch and Start Your Own Business. There's 5 million new business licenses granted every year, and sadly, 25% of them don't make it past the first year. I'm here to change that. I can help you start your business and be successful. My podcast is going to walk you through all of that. Let's get started now. I'm Brian Collins, author of Step Off the Porch and Start Your Own Business. I'm going to read a short excerpt from my book that's going to be discussed in podcast number 2. So you've decided that you like money, you want to be an entrepreneur. That's great. But you need to understand some simple rules to get out there. Interestingly enough, most of these rules are not taught in college. I know, I have a business degree. So if you want to look at the book that I've written with some real life examples referencing real deals, I can help you get started on your business venture. Okay. And I have a nice quote here from John D. Rockefeller. Don't be afraid to give up the good to go for the great. There's a lot of interesting people that I've quoted in my book. Very simply, I'm going to start today about how to start your business. Okay. My book, the first venture is called The Takeover. And there's another quote from Jim Rohn. If you really want to do something, you'll find a way. If you don't, you'll find an excuse. So the first venture is about a takeover when I used my 6 rules and I took over 2 bankrupt real estate franchises up here in the west coast of Canada. And it was an interesting time. The first venture I owned from Vancouver, I went over there. It was a Century 21 franchise. And I left an accounting job in Calgary and I moved over. I was a CFO there. And I took over these 2 ventures and they were near collapse when I had to step in. So I've started 4 businesses, all from zero. These 2 franchises are actually less than zero. They were negative zero. Not that that's a real thing, but they were below water, substantially below water. But it was an opportunity for me, and I seized that moment. So I'm going to say right now, please enjoy this podcast that's coming up. Get out your pencil and paper and make some notes. Hi, I'm Brian Collins, author of Step Off the Porch and Start Your Own Business. I'm here to talk to you about the book Purchase Price Guarantee on my website, 6stepbiz.com, or Step Off the Porch and Start Your Own Business. I'm very confident that my book can help you. It's helped many get started in your first venture, your next venture, or a side hustle. I'm guaranteeing your purchase price of my book very simply. If you buy my book and you start your business and for any reason it's not successful, get a hold of me, give me your proof of purchase and a few details of your business, and I will fully refund the purchase price of my book. You literally have nothing to risk using my book to help you consider, get started, enhance, go into your next business. Brian Collins, I'm the author. Thank you.
Brian, thank you for that awesome introduction. That's a good way to set up this episode 2 of Step Off the Porch and Start Your Own Business podcast. I am Larry Sands. What you just heard and you are looking at is Brian Collins, Mr. Entrepreneur himself, and Erick Kasloff.
Glad we're back for number 2, Eric. Larry, nice to talk to you guys again. And I'm excited for this podcast. The first podcast I thought went well, but we're going to build on it today. We're going to dig deep, a little bit deeper on how to start that business, because a lot of people have a dream that they want to own their own venture. And I'm here to say I've done it 4 times without any background in any of those 4 arenas. And if I can do it, they can do it. I'm just an average guy. And if I can do it, they can do it. And the first thing I want them to say is, I own my own business. When you're watching this podcast. Now say it again. I own my own business. It sounds good, doesn't it? Let's start down that road so you can capitalize on that statement.
Wow. I love that. I love that. I love that. And you really, because really what you have to do, you almost have to be a visionary, don't you? You have to visualize you have a business and you are running a business even before you start. Because it's like that positive, I hate to say this, but that positive affirmation, because once you think it and you do it and you do it and you do it and you do it, So I'm and this is like, I think for the first episode was like, people are like, well, yeah, how do we start? How we start? Bingo, everybody. Welcome to episode 2.
Mhm.
Brian, take it away.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Larry and Eric, you're quite right. You have to have a vision. It doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be a completely colored in, painted picture on the wall of what you're going to do, but you need to have a vision. And from that vision, then you start asking yourself the hard questions. Okay, is this realistic? And as we said in the first podcast, and I'm going to bring it up again, the first 3 questions that I deal with in my book, and the first 3 questions that every entrepreneur is going to face: what is your product or service? Who's going to buy your product or service? And how are you going to finance the start of your product or service? So we're going to touch on some of that today. And in the third podcast, we're going to talk on the financing, because that's a big story unto itself. But having a vision, what is your product? What is your service? It could be something that's already out there that you've seen. I've talked to a lot of people. They said, I want to own my restaurant in downtown Manhattan. I said, that's a really good idea, but how many restaurants are there in downtown Manhattan? I don't know, a lot.
Yeah.
So doesn't mean it can't happen. Doesn't mean it won't work, but you need to firm your resolve when you decide what it is you're going to do, who's going to buy your product or service. And you have to start having pictures in your mind as to, okay, here's the kinds of things I think I need to get started. What have I missed is the more important question. And my book, because I've done 4 different ventures, you're not going to do any of my ventures, I'm pretty sure of that, but they all run into the same problems when you're starting. They all have the same speed bumps, as I call it. Sometimes the speed bumps are a little bit higher, but all speed bumps. So you need to be able to navigate the speed bumps. So once you have listed what you're comfortable on your venture is going to look like, what have you missed in the start? And we were going to talk about that in this podcast as we go forward, but my book also covers that. And let me just plug it. The number 6, stepbiz.com, is the fast link to my book website. The book's called Step Off the Porch and Start Your Own Business. And the porch is a euphemism for your comfort zone. So let's roll forward. So your 3 questions, what is your business? Who's going to buy it? How are you going to finance it? And financing, we're going to top to that. When you start your business, the number one thing that I touch on in each of these chapters is, what's the structure of your business? What's it going to look like? Okay. Is it a corporate entity? Is it a C Corp, an S Corp? Is it an LLC? Are you going to have a partnership? Are you going to be a sole proprietor? Okay. What state is your entity going to be domiciled in? In other words, I love Wyoming. Nevada's good. Delaware's good. Florida's good. Texas is good. But there's reasons for each of those states. And it's very easy to get a hold of a registered agent in each of those states and say, hey, I'm thinking of forming a C Corp, which I love, because C Corps allow you to pay a reasonable amount of tax and shelter those assets to then further grow for the benefit of your family or the shareholders in that C Corp. And C Corps are quite extensively used for family holdings because they carry a long time run. An LLC is great for an operating business because cash in, cash out. There's a profit. You divide the profit at the end of the year. If there's a loss, you divide the loss at the end of the year. There's no tax for the LLC because it can't have a profit. But if you're trying to bring people in to the conversation to help you get started, once you've determined what your product or service is, who's going to buy your product or service, who's going to help me get this started? And we'll talk to that extensively in the third podcast. But I'm just giving you a cursory overview. Okay, so domicile, I like Wyoming. I like LLCs. I like C Corps. But there's a conversation that can be made for a partnership, or maybe you want to go it on your own because it's a small business you're starting and you're going to work from home, sole proprietorship. But get this stuff laid out first, because believe you me, and my background is accounting and business, and I've done a lot of tax stuff. Once you're in the middle of the fray on running the business, the last thing you want to have time for and spend time on is, do I have the right corporate structure? Am I making my filings properly? Am I going to have a tax problem at the end of the year because I haven't set things up properly? if you can't figure those things out, there's people that you can ask very easily. And it's not a lot of money either. And I can, communicate with me. I can certainly give the benefit of what I've run into, but wherever you live in your country, there's people locally that can say, well, you're going to do this, so you should probably look at this kind of a structure. The few pennies you're going to pay to get that advice is money well spent, because once you've locked on, that bus is rolling down the highway and you don't want to have to come back and swap it out for a different kind of vehicle. You're going to ride that bus for a long time. So go ahead, Larry, you had a question.
Right. Well, and actually I was going to ask is, at any point, obviously your everything is going to be in the links in the description of this particular episode, in every episode. But if people have certain questions, is it okay for people to contact you? And I realize, and everybody listening to this, I think you have one of two people. I think, the first person that's going to listen to this is like, I've always thought of starting a business, right? And I had no idea what you just mentioned has to be done, right? About picking what type of business in the corporate structure. Another type of person's going to listen to this and go, yeah, that's a no-brainer, right? And so there's two schools of thought. And obviously for me and for Erick, right, we're just learning how to do this business stuff as a business. And so I think, in my mind, the people that already are kind of knowing what's going on are kind of like, okay, great. But I'm more important to talking to the people that know that they want to do something, but have no idea what a corporate structure is. So, having said that, is it okay to contact you with a couple of questions? And I should put a disclaimer on that and saying, you're not in every state, right? And there's different rules for different businesses, which is why you said contact a CPA or a financial advisor
Yes.
to ask those questions. But
Yep.
It's okay for people to contact you.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no problem. I will give them benefit of what I have encountered in my years of business. Absolutely. But I'll always couch it by saying, if you live in this city, go talk to this CPA, this lawyer, this financial guy, just to double check, because I'm going to give you the general overview, which will point you in the right direction, but then finalize it with somebody. And quite honestly, if you get a good CPA, and their prices are reasonable, now he's going to solve a lot of your problems for you, because a lot of people hate doing accounting work. He's going to say, guess what? You made a profit this year, go celebrate, have a short holiday or whatever. So absolutely there. You and Erick are your point on there. Like, everybody that starts a business, they have to look as best they can and try to understand the vision and what's happening in the road in front of them. But most people don't have all that. And yes, some of the people that are going to hear your podcast are already successful business people, and congratulations. We love that, because small businesses employ, in your country and my country, anywhere from 60 to 75% of the jobs. Really? 60 to 75%.
I didn't know it was that much.
Yes. New jobs, 60 to 75%. My country's higher because we have less larger industries. Your country, but it's still about 60% of new jobs in your country come from small business. That's a big chunk of the economy. Yeah. And yet we get no sway. We get no coverage from any of the powers to be, whether it's tax or politics or financing or anything. But we carry the backbone of those small jobs that help all those little cities and communities grow, because people are employed and they get paychecks.
Wow.
So my answer to your question is, if somebody is like just brand new starting this, my book can help you. Absolutely. Even for the people that are partway there or have started a business, but they're going, did I miss anything? My book can still help you, because I have 10 topics that I discuss in each of my 4 ventures. And if you read my book and you go, check, you're going to sleep better tonight knowing here's this other guy. He's just an average guy, but he started 4 successful businesses. He sold 3 so far, and he's working on the 4th. And I've covered every topic that this guy's talked about. So I guess I'm going to do okay. Take it from that perspective.
Yeah.
And my book is so simple. It's 140 pages. There's no graphs with slope curves and intersecting economic indices, because that doesn't apply to the average person's work world that they're going to walk into.
Right,
so
right.
That's what I'm happy to talk about my book and 6stepbiz.com, or Step Off the Porch and Start Your Own Business. So you have your business idea. You think you're going to roll out an XYZ product that people are going to buy and sell. Great. You're going to have to find a way to finance that. We'll talk about that in the 3rd podcast. But as we touched on, what's the corporate structure? Where's the company going to be domiciled? And so on and so forth. So anyways, Eric, did you have a question?
My question is about the corporate structure.
Yes.
So when you find, I'll use an example. Let's say I start Erick's Awesome Hot Dogs, a business like that.
Sure.
And I am the sole provider.
Yes.
But as the business grows, I start hiring employees.
Yes.
We get another location.
Yes.
How I'm able to change it from a sole provider to multiple people involved in it, correct or no?
Yes, you can. If you start as a sole proprietorship, you're sort of a single individual entity rolling forward, Eric. And as you grow and you're saying, okay, well, now I've got 10 employees here and I'm opening 2 more locations. Now I need to become something different. So you have to decide, are you going to have to be raising capital to allow you to build those new structures? Are you going to be franchising them out? Are you going to own those businesses yourself? How do you want to bring people into those new ventures? Do you want them to be partners? Do you want them to be employees? Do you want them to have a blend of both of those worlds? So, they can look at an LLC, because that allows a lot of people to have the same hat inside the business, but a different percentage of hat that they own. Or you can create an S Corp or a C Corp. And I like C Corps personally. But that allows you to now, the corporate entity now can be the asset owner. But because of the share structure, you have ways to remunerate with the key people in your organizations. And, those are topics that we can discuss in more detail. If anybody wants to get a hold of me, that's fine. Or they can get it from their local, CPA or lawyer in the community once they get there. But the question you brought up was really good, Eric, because you got to look past the first 12 months. Maybe your hot dog stand, Eric's going to be really successful. But if one's successful, can I do 5? And it's interesting. The number 6 reason that most businesses fail in your country is they expand too fast. They expand too fast. And when I was in university, I was set into a pod of 5 make-believe businesses that was run through the Harvard Business School. And we had 12 quarters or 3 years. We had so much money. There's a whole bunch of things we had to do. And I was the only business that only brought out 2 new products, and everybody else brought out 3 new products. At the end of the second year, I was kicking everybody's butt. I was making so much money because I only had to worry about selling 2 products. And at the end of the year, we got the gold medal and this and that, because our business was highly profitable. And we hadn't even really scratched the surface on the 3rd product, because the first 2 were working. So don't expand too fast is my suggestion. And sometimes, I've seen real estate companies back when I was working in that arena, they're really successful in one location, but when they open the next 2, it's a financial drain on management and staff, and they don't have the bodies over there to be as successful. All of a sudden your net margin is dropping. So sometimes having one location that's really good, accept it. And then if you want to do something else, start a new venture. Doesn't have to be the same product.
Actually, and it struck me, because when Eric had his hot dog stand, and Brian, you said, he wants to grow. It kind of blows my mind as we're talking, and does it really, it sounds like it doesn't take a lot to be able to expand if the business allows it.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Larry. Erick's comment on his hot dog stand is he already envisioned. He's a clever guy. He's smiling. He's already figured out he's going to have 12 of these. He's going to leave here today, and he's trademarking a name for the hot dog stand as we sit here. I know it. Hey, I want a free hot dog when I come by. So
of
just
course,
remember
I
that.
want to rival Nathan's hot dogs. You know,
There you go.
I want
Okay.
I want to have be at their neck. You know, like now we're gonna have a bigger hot dog eating contest.
There you go. There you go. So to expand it, if you figured out the location, the corporate entity, the product and service, the marketing, the sales, the tax, the employees, that's a critical part of this that we really haven't touched on much. Employees are your team. Okay. The easiest analogy I have is I've seen some really successful coaches in the NHL win the Stanley Cup, but without the players, they got squat. Right. So your team, and maybe they're a 1-year player, maybe they're a millennial player, it doesn't really matter, but you need to have the best team you can have every year, and you need to spend time on that, and you need to let the team know they're integral in their success and your success, and that's stuff I touch on my book as well. But to expand, Larry, it's fairly easy to expand. You have to find the locations. It's easy to get now with so much information that's available on digital. You can get, walk by, drive by, this and that information for certain locations. You can run the numbers and say, well, there's 1 million people that pass by my first hot dog stand every month. Okay. And my return is X. So if I find a location that's 2 million, theoretically, I should do as well, possibly a little better, as long as the competition in the area doesn't change the demographics at all. So but those are simple calculations that can be done, but follow the simple rules in my book and my 10 topics. It's easy to get the first one up and running, and you literally, you're going to make most of your mistakes on the first one, and everybody makes mistakes, but the mistakes aren't, big enough that, fall off the edge of the earth. So you're going to make mistakes, and more importantly, you learn from making mistakes, and hopefully we don't repeat them again. But repeating a successful venture, Starbucks, I don't know what to say. I mean, people like really, really strong coffee, and those things are everywhere.
Yeah.
I wanted to add on to something you said, to use the sports analogy within the corporate structure, and this will make sense. You need to treat your first line the same way you would treat your third line, meaning you have to treat the CFO of your company and treat the janitor with the same exact amount of respect, because, the CFO is very important, but your restroom being clean and well kept is maybe even more important than, your CFO. Because if one little thing goes wrong, like with a movie theater, you can go to the movies and see, a really great movie, but if one person on the staff is rude to you, like you ask for a straw and they curse you out, it's going to destroy the whole feel of the movie, because one little thing went wrong.
Yeah, and you probably won't go back to that location next time. Yeah, exactly. I agree. And we touched on this. Like I've always in my businesses treated everybody like they're in the same team. I always use people's first names. There's a reason for that. It draws them in and gives them a sense of, I'm part of the team. I might be the janitor instead of the CFO, but quite honestly, day in and day out, what the janitor does is probably more important than what the CFO does, because it's visual to everybody that comes by that location. If we go back to your hot dog stand and the garbage cans behind the hot dog stand aren't well managed and taken care of, people aren't going to buy hot dogs from that stand.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you need to treat the people on the team And I use the pizza analogy. It's lunchtime in the staff room. There's one really large pizza. Everybody gets to have some. You might have to cut thinner slices, but everybody gets some. When you start cutting people out of their miniature slice of pizza, you're going to create problems. You're going to create divisions. And unless people are viewed as on the same team, every job's important, you're working against yourself in your new venture, or however many new ventures you open in new locations. So that I touch on that in my book as well.
Okay, so now you have this business, and now you need to decide where you want it to for financial thing. Well, help me out with this, Larry, because you're better at this question. Where to locate your business for the financial stuff? You can word that better, right?
Well, and I think this is a big thing in Hollywood, or it was when I was there, when we were there. Is you hear about all these people, they want to open up these corporations, in a Nevada corporation. Particularly Nevada, because it's got no state income tax. So really it's just a federal thing. And so is that what you're asking, Eric?
Yeah.
Even though, because when you're in California and you don't want to pay state tax, obviously, you want to or Delaware, right? You hear Delaware or Nevada. And can you just touch on that a little bit, Brian?
Yeah, there are states that don't collect state tax. So your corporate entity can be domiciled in Wyoming, as the case may be. Nevada, depending on what business you're in Nevada, because I own some gold mines there. The first, I think it's $4 million is state tax is exempt, and after that you pay tax above that. That's one of the new rules there. But Wyoming, if you're, depending on where you're domiciled, but where the business is located, if it's external to Wyoming, but it's a Wyoming corporation, you effectively are going to have minimal state tax or zero, as the case may be. So there's advantages, and all of these things can be explored.
Yeah.
You can look them up. I touch on them in my book, and that's certainly some of the questions you can ask me. But in my book, I ask people to get my book, read my book, and send me the answers to those first three questions. What's your product or business? Who's going to buy it? And how are you going to finance it? You send me your answers in an email with your proof of purchase. I'm going to get back to you, and I'm going to say, yeah, here's what I think. Boom, 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 boom. Now we've started a conversation. As your business grows, if you want me to stay involved and look at investing a little bit down the road, I'm open to that too. Just, that's an option. You don't have to do that, but it's there. There's a lot of good opportunities out there waiting to help people. But let me circle back. 5 million new businesses were started in the last couple of years. Last year was 5.4 million. The majority of those are first timers. If those people had access to a simple book template that will walk you through a lot of the challenges and speed bumps you're going to encounter before you spend money opening your business, it might be a really good idea to have a look at that and then get a hold of me. Answer the three questions, get a hold of me, because and if it doesn't work, I'll buy your book back if your business is not successful. You just have to send me proof of purchase and what happened with your business. I'll give you your money back for the book you bought from me when your business fails. Okay. Hopefully that doesn't happen. And if you get a hold of me, maybe we can find some positive things to turn that business in the right direction.
That's so great.
Hey, what, Brian, that sounds, and this is not like a come on deal, because a lot of people out there are like, oh yeah, what's the catch? There really is no catch, right?
There's no catch. There's no catch. My email's on the book. My email's on the website. My son, a couple handfuls of his friends have asked me since their college days, hey, Mike, can I ask your dad? Give me his phone number. I just want to ask your dad, pick his brain for 30 minutes, buy him coffee. Well, I don't drink coffee, but we go and they have coffee and I have juice or something. They're talking about businesses and what they should do and how to get their their first step, two steps going. And I've mentored these people. I even mentored a kid who was a young kid I leased my last car from. really, really bright kid going in circles. I said, you need to go and take your first business course, because that first business course is going to open the door for you to own your own business. He took his first business course. He got a B on it. I paid him for the course. And he's now a part owner in a little car sale business, which is what he wanted to do. And it's small, but he just needed somebody to say, I believe in you.
Wow.
You can do this.
Yeah.
And he took that step. I answered some questions for him. And I even paid for a course for him at college, which was just a generic, business program. And he's now moved on, and he's doing quite well. So I'm here to help people, because when I started my 4 businesses, nobody helped me on any of these. My real estate companies that I took over, I was working I was an auditor for Century 21 in Canada, and those companies were in huge, well, they were virtually in bankrupt position. There was 4 vice presidents at Century 21 that had no suggestion on how to save the tsunami of lawsuits that was going to happen when these 2 companies went under. So I went into my office after doing an audit, and I said, okay, here's a way to split the company's operating entities to an operating entity and then a liability entity, and it still passed legal standards up here. So I gave that to my boss, and he said, holy moly, like nobody else came up with anything, and those 4 vice presidents were just sitting there drawing their paychecks. So he said, okay, kid, you go do it. And I said, on one condition, I get to buy these companies for $10 each if I make them successful. Done. So I eventually bought those companies for $10 when I fixed them.
That's awesome.
It's almost like, to put it into perspective, at least for Eric and I, and really anybody else, that you pick a business.
Well,
and
I had a way I wanted to go about that.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so using, the hot dog stand idea, I look at my options. I look at, okay, Manhattan, any of there would be a horrible place to open a hot dog stand, because there's Gray's Papayas, which is a very well-known one. Then there's the hot dog vendors on the streets. So opening up a hot dog shop there, I would lose money. So I look, where is there a place where people, where businesses are, where people need a quick thing to eat. I read your book and I learn all this stuff. I pick my area. I start the business with just me and this shop. We start making money. I have more employees come in. I reevaluate my corporate structure, as I've learned from your book. And now, I live in New Jersey. Then I need to look through, just a quick Google search, which states have the best, holdings for a company. And I find Wyoming. That's the best, just an example, because we both said that, or Vegas, but since you like Wyoming, we'll use them. So that's how you look at the basics of, we'll get into funding and all of that in the next episode, but that's pretty much the basics from reading your book. You have to look at all of these things and, instead of building the better mousetrap, finding a better way to get rid of the mice is what I'm trying to think of, because there's already mousetraps out there.
Yeah, exactly, Eric. So maybe trapping the mouse is not the answer. Maybe it's, expelling them from the area that you don't want them to be in is the question that should be answered.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
so
you don't.
It's a continuum. You start from your idea and flush it out, but walk forward, and you'll see from my book that there are challenges in each business that are repetitive, and some challenges are new, but there's a way to get over them and around them. And, I even talk on lawsuits. Every business, every successful business, I always say, there's how many people are riding on the bus that you're driving, how many people are getting a free lunch. Okay. And there's just a group of people that have decided that once you're starting to be successful, they're going to run at you with some paper, whether it's valid or not.
Right.
and try to get something for nothing. And I've had to deal with a bunch of those in my lifetime. In fact, the last two ones I solved on my own. I've solved some other on my own, but I've solved them literally on my own. And one walked out of the courtroom, and the judge goes, "Yeah, I didn't do anything wrong," and I won them myself just because, I knew the stuff they were asking for, and I talk about those in my book. Was just, it wasn't substantiated with anything, and I've anyways, you're going to run into that, but that's just part of owning a business. You're going to have employees that are upset, or accounts, suppliers that are upset, or landlords that are upset. There's ways to deal with it successfully, and don't let it destroy your vision and your dream for your hot dog stand, wherever you want to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brian, you don't want to go and ask somebody who's never started a business, how do you run a business? Here,
No.
you've started 4. You've successfully sold 3.
Yes.
You're working on 1. I mean, what else do people need to take that step and jump off the?
Actually, it's really quite simple. If you have a passion, if you need or want better financial security, or you just want to start a side hustle so that you've got some extra comfort, you're a young person, you're saying, but my job is only 35 hours a week. I've got some evenings and Saturdays. I could run this business for 10, 15 years. Hey, maybe that business really takes off, and then you don't have the other job. Or even if it doesn't, it augments your income to the point where the way you've got the corporate structure, it allows you to take the surplus out of that you've paid tax on, and all of a sudden it's buying rental properties or something else. I mean, there's so many things you can do with a little bit of effort, a couple evenings and a Saturday. Pretty soon you got 2 employees. Now you got 10 employees. Now you got 2 locations. It grows. It goes faster than people think, because there's always a need for new energy forces out there to fulfill this economy that you and I live in. Okay, we live in an economy where we need new jobs, we need new opportunities, we need new visions to come forward to help grow this economy. Because if the economy doesn't grow, eventually, everybody else suffers. Like, it's across the board. So we're designed for that. Your country, my country, is designed for that. So we need people to step up and say, hey, I'm going to be one of the 5 million people this year that gets a business license. I might know not very much about this. I might have $200 that I can set aside for us, but it's a start. Idea, who's going to buy it? How are you going to finance it? The next podcast, I talk about how to bring people in to help you finance your dream. And that's, in the first blush, probably equally as important as what the product's going to be to start with, because that allows you to take it from a dream to, there's actually, whether it's online or you've got brick and mortar, but it's now something that can generate cash flow. So we talk about that in the third podcast.
I love it. And actually, as we wrap up, if you can give like a little summary of what we talked about, because I think as we go, almost for these next episodes, is we talk about all this amazing stuff, but then at the end, do that summary and sum up, for people taking notes.
Sure. Okay. Well, the first podcast we summarized, this podcast was how to start your business. Okay. What's your business? What's the product or service you're going to sell? Okay. Who's going to buy that product or service? How are you going to finance it? We'll jump on that in the third one. Okay. So now you've got conceptually the picture. What kind of corporate entity are you looking for? There's, 4 or 5 we talked about: C Corp, S Corp, partnership, LLC, sole proprietorship. Where's the corporate entity going to be based? Is it going to be based in California because there's a lot of taxes there? Is it going to be based in Wyoming, Nevada, Delaware, Texas? All those things can be explored nicely, okay? And there's reasons you have different corporate structures. If you have different people that are going to be working with you, are they going to be part owner in the corporate structure, or do you just want to flow through like an LLC? We have a profit, we distribute all the surplus after we paid all the expenses. Those are questions that we've touched on here, the book touches on, and we can flesh out, anybody that buys my book and answer those questions. We've started a conversation. Okay. So we talked about all those things. We talked about some other very important things as to how to handle the people in your corporation. They have to play in the same team. They have to be all members of the same team. They have to think they're all members of the same team, but actually get treated like they're all members of the same team. And that's the only way your business is going to be successful. If it's more than just you that's making the product and selling the product. If you have people that are helping you make the product or sell the product or market the product, they got to be on your team and feel like they're part of your team. And that's something you got to spend some time on. But the better balanced your team is, the higher probability of success you're going to have. And I'll mention this again, 25% of the businesses don't make it 12 months, 50% don't make it 5 years. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with your product. Is your business plan, is your finance, is your location, is your marketing, did you expand too fast? Those are things we touch on in the book. But we need to make sure that if you're going to start, you have at least a general understanding of what it is you want to do, how it's going to come to fruition, and when to start. And my 6 rules will help walk you down there. If you're prepared to work hard, that's rule 1. If you're going to work first and play later, that's rule 2. Jump on this book. It's simple. It's easy to understand. And I step up and say, I'll buy it back from you if it doesn't work under the terms in the book. If it fails, and you send me proof of purchase and it didn't work, we'll deal with that. But I'm also trying to engage with you on the positive side. Buy the book, read the book, answer those questions and say, okay, Brian, am I doing this right? And where do I need to go from here? We start the conversation. Okay. And then we'll work out what we have to work out to go forward. But every success story that comes out of what Erick and Larry and I are doing here, whether we're trying to help the veterans start a business, or somebody who needs extra income for their family, or could be the single mom that all of a sudden, things happen in her family life and she's going, well, I could do this from home, but I need to have some understanding on how to roll it out. But I need to make more money because, children aren't free. Mm-hmm. So, we can help all those people.
Yeah. Perfect. Very well said. Erick, you want to take us out?
Well, everybody, you've listened to this podcast. Now, entrepreneurs, get off the porch and start your business.
Thank you.